Thanks, Goose. Age of Wonders is a turn-based strategy series set in a fantasy world, and it's been about 10 years since the last one came out.
Now, in the interest of full disclosure, I have to say I've never played or even heard of Age of Wonders before.
Yeah, me neither. In fact, I thought this was part of the Age of Mythology series at first.
It kind of leaves us in the dark about how this game relates to other games in the series.
This could be the best Age of Wonders game ever, or the worst. All I can say for sure is that it's both the best and worst Age of Wonders game I've played.
My father is King Saradas, once first Stormlord of the Dark Elves.
As you start the campaign, you're given a few screens of full voiced-over text to fill you in on the story. In a nutshell, there's been peace for a while between the races, but now they're all fighting again.
I found an opportunity to escape my gilded cage when Thanos was sent to negotiate with the Commonwealth at the Council of Origins.
It all felt pretty generic and dull fantasy to me, Hex.
Yeah, it doesn't quite rival the intricate fantasies of Tolkien and George R.R. Martin, does it? Although that's a pretty unfair bar to set. I do think it gives you enough motivation and, I suppose, lore to keep things interesting.
Yeah. I have to say, I did tune out after the Lizard Man was upset because he couldn't dunk his magic egg in the special pool.
He has a draconian artifact called the Radiant Egg.
That happened right at the start of the game.
I know. There's just something a bit weird about a lizard man that wants to dunk his egg into a special pool that I find hard to take seriously.
Well, story aside, this plays like a fantasy RPG version of Civilization. The main map is set out on a hex grid with cities and various encampments to take control of, build up and expand. And like in the Total War games, there's a separate tactical battle mode that you can go into when armies clash. The RPG twist to all of this is that you have a special hero unit who is basically the ruler of your civilization.
These guys come with all the RPG trappings, like upgradable magic attacks and skills. And as you play, you'll find new weapons, armor, and mounts you can equip them with. So they're pretty customizable, which I liked.
The campaigns walk you through the various races and their heroes, but if you just launch a skirmish or a multiplayer match, then you're free to choose whichever hero you like.
During the campaign, you'll also meet other heroes who will join your cause. They can definitely make your armies much more powerful, except you often have to keep them alive for the sake of the story. So if they fall in battle, it's an instant fail.
Yeah, I found myself having to reload quite a bit due to dead heroes.
It's pretty unforgiving, isn't it? Even without those insta-fails, I learned pretty quickly that everything can and will go very wrong in just a turn or two, if you aren't prepared. Just a few turns after starting wars, enemy armies seemed to spring up from everywhere and quickly take hold of any cities I'd left undefended.
Then of course your economy collapses and you can't make new armies, then you fail. Always save before declaring war.
Sage advice. And as tricky as things are on the campaign map, they're even trickier down on the battlefield. When you attack most enemies, they hit back as hard as you hit them. Unless you flanked them or used ranged attacks.
And I always love that strategy that really focuses on clever positioning of units and using their abilities appropriately.
Especially as armies are also quite small, so every unit counts. Each army can only have up to 6 units, and most units can only withstand 2 or 3 enemy attacks. So just 1 or 2 bad turns and it will all be over.
Enemy AI is relentless too, so your mistakes won't go unpunished.
No. You can try and bring in other armies if they're nearby on the campaign map, and try and win by pure numbers.
Yes, it wasn't long before I started just trying to steamroll across the map with as many armies as possible and letting the auto battle option take care of everything for me. It's a deep combat system, and I can see the appeal of trying to master the strategies there, but just for me it felt a bit too unforgiving while I was trying to learn.
Yeah, I think this is one of those games that clicks after dozens and dozens of hours of play, or if you're already a veteran of the series. What do you think of the grand campaign overall, Hex?
That I didn't think had so much depth to it. For example, when you're building up cities, there's no branching build trees or choices to make for specializing a city. With enough gold and time, you can just max them all out.
And it's the same with research and diplomacy. Given enough time, you can simply research everything, so there's no choice there other than which to research first. And while there are diplomatic options available, outside of a few story-driven alliances, they're generally pointless. The only real road to victory is force.
Yeah, I think overall it's missing a lot of the intricacies and tough decisions that make a game like Civ so compelling.
Yeah, those familiar 4X basics are still there, but it just didn't put me in that one more go state of mind.
Still, the more I played of this, the more I realised that this is a very different kind of game to Civ, and it has its own charms that did start to grow on me. I loved the RPG side of things, like finding caves and dungeons to explore and getting loot. And I really liked how when you zoom out, it turns into a classic fantasy-style map.
I feel like I'm nitpicking a bit with this one, Hex, but it is a really tough one because there's nothing in it that I hate, but there's nothing that I also love, nothing that gets me really invested and excited about this game. But it all works, so I'm going to give it 7 out of 10 rubber chickens.
For me, it's a 7.5.
There was much I did not understand, but the egg now glows like the sun.